Alrighty, welcome back everyone. We just did a little bit of a whip around to all the other big games of this past weekend. Notre Dame rolls over Syracuse. We get Miami and Vanderbilt and Utah all staying in the CFP mix. Texas probably falling out of it, even getting the win over Arkansas, and a couple other upsets from this past weekend. But we got to talk about coaching carousels. A lot of stuff has happened. A lot of stuff around Lane Kiffin, some stuff up there in State College. The biggest thing, however, happened down there in Tallahassee, Florida. Mike Norvell is sticking around at Florida State. He got the vote of confidence earlier in the year, and it sounded a whole lot like we're going to fire him at the end of the year. And now they're going to say they're going to roll with him for 2026. Frankly, this one is really, really simple in a lot of different ways. They can't afford it. They just can't afford it right now. It's $72 million plus to fire him and all of his assistants right now. They can't do it. Plain and simple. Here's the issue with that. The issues with this program cannot be fixed in an offseason. Plain and simple. The issues with this program go back to the start of Mike Norvell's tenure, and that's not to take anything away from Mike Norvell. I will talk about how much I like him here in a second, but at the end of the day, it can't be fixed. And going into 2026 doesn't mean you can't be good in 2026. You can bring in a great portal class. You can put together a nice team. You could take a step forward from 6 wins, 5 or 6 wins, whatever the season ends as, and you can move forward to 8, 9 wins next year. It won't fix what's wrong with this program. What's wrong with this program is they have not recruited the high school level or the high school kids to the level that they need to, while Miami has, while Florida has, but hasn't gotten the results that they've needed. But at the end of the day, you're too far behind. It would take 3 or 4 years to build this thing the way that it's supposed to build a sustainable program. That's still what it takes to build a really sustainable program in this climate, even with the portal. I don't see any other way this ending than Florida State searching for a coach this time next year. I really don't. I'd love to say that Mike Norvell can turn this thing around, that he can put everything together this offseason, and that they can be a dangerous team next year, because Florida State's a really fun team when they're good. I don't see it being a reality. I really don't see a lot of players wanting to come there, given the circumstances that they're going into the season with. I don't see a lot of the coaches that they're going to try to get this offseason with some of the coaching changes that are inevitably going to be made. I don't see them wanting to come there because you're really asking them to move for the chance of a turnaround over there at Florida State. Worst case scenario, you're living there for a couple of months and then you got to up and move again. It's just not a great situation. It's really not. And if you watch that NC State game, it's really good proof of that. That was the ugliest finish to a football game I've seen in a very long time. I don't think he has that football team very much this season. He didn't have him last season towards the end of it. He doesn't have that fan base, I can promise you that. It's just a bad situation, and it's one that, in a lot of ways, if you want to be mad at anyone, you can be mad at the people that told you that he had a shot at the Alabama job, because that put you in a position where now it's $72 million instead of, I don't know what the number would have been, but let's say it was $20 million. If it's $20 million, he's walking out the door right now. That's the reality. But it's $72 million. You cannot afford it right now. I don't think it's a crazy decision to keep him around. I want to say that first and foremost. It's just a really tough position to be in. No matter how you cut it, no matter how you cut it, just a really, really tough position to be in. If you fire him, you're in a really bad position financially to go hire a new coach. If you don't fire him, everyone's just waiting around for that news to drop. I tend to be in that boat. I don't know when it's going to happen next year. I don't even know if it's going to happen next year. Maybe he pulls off an incredible portal class, they put together a great year, and they get rolling again. I think that is a uniquely slim chance of that happening. I think Mike Norvell is on borrowed time at this very moment. We'll see what happens in 2026. Maybe he can put together a portal class. Maybe he can get some elite coaches to come there. There's some massive maybes there, and I just really think I really think he will not make his way out of October next year. We'll see what happens with this one. We'll see what Florida State does. We'll see what he does in the offseason, but I can't feel confident in the situation over there at Florida State right now, and I think you're just biding time while you get the money together. So I'd love to say more for Florida State fans. I'd love to give you a better outlook. As of right now, it's pretty bleak, and I don't see it turning a corner very soon. We got to talk about Terry Smith. This is not a conversation I thought we'd be having, with all respect to Terry Smith. I think he's a great football coach, has done an incredible job with this team. Just thought this team was relatively dead at the time that James Franklin was fired, and going forward after a couple more losses, just did not feel great about where they were. They found it. And they look like the team that we thought they were going to be going into the season. Now, maybe not that elite because they haven't played necessarily elite teams. They're playing really good football, and they're playing incredibly hard, which means there's a groundswell for Terry Smith, a very, very connected guy in the world of Penn State, a guy that's been there for a very long time, a guy that's done a lot of really incredible things at that program. I think it'd be a terrible hire. And that's nothing against Terry Smith. I want that to be very, very clear. Actually, I'd love to be wrong. I'd love for them to hire Terry Smith and this thing to work out beautifully because I think he's a fun guy. I think it'd be an interesting thing for this program, and I think it'd be something really, really fun to watch. But you're going to look me in the face and say you're going to fire James Franklin and then hire James Franklin's assistant to be the head coach. I can't believe that's going to be the case. I just can't. I get it. A lot of fans are calling for it. Some former players are calling for it. Current players are calling for it. I get all of that. I just think it would be a massive mistake. I just don't think that would be something that would work out long term. I could be very well wrong. Who knows? And frankly, when you look around the coaching search right now for Penn State, I think outside of this one, you're probably going towards Bob Chesney. So that's up to y'all. Depending on the way you want to go with that, I think Terry Smith can do good things there. I have a hard time believing he's going to be better than James Franklin, and that's what you're going for. I think it's going to be Bob Chesney. I think they're going to end up hiring someone different. I think they're going to go with Bob Chesney. That being said, they win this weekend. Who knows what happens? He has a lot of people in his ear. Does Pat Kraft saying this is the guy? A lot of different people, alumni and former players saying they would support this team if he was the head coach. I don't know what's going to happen. I do think they'll have a hire soon. The situation with Bob Chesney, if he goes to the playoff, could be a little bit sketchy. Terry Smith has a shot, is really the long and short of this. He has a shot to get this head coaching job. If I were the AD, I probably would not be hiring Terry Smith. That's just a personal belief on getting caught up in interim coaches a little bit too quickly and not thinking about the long term. Who knows? Maybe I'm entirely wrong. And I kind of hope I am, because it'd be an incredible story to see Terry Smith take over this program and do incredible things. I have massive questions that a James Franklin assistant is going to be able to do more than James Franklin was capable of doing. We'll see what happens. If it's not him, I do think it's going to be Bob Chesney, and we'll see how that unfolds. I think it's going to happen here pretty soon, and we'll see if Terry Smith ends up getting it. The Lane Kiffin update, something that is going to happen, it seems, until Saturday. Saturday seems to be the cutoff point. Keith Carter came out and said the decision will be made by Saturday after the Egg Bowl has ended. That reads to me and a lot of other people that they're just delaying the announcement of him leaving. That being said, a lot of different reports about this and a lot of different people saying he has no idea. He has not made a decision. And that sounds crazy to me. But I don't necessarily think it's all that untrue. I think all the salaries seem to be relatively in line. It sounds like they're all around 13, 14, would probably make him the highest paid coach in college football. All of them seem to be right in that realm. Now, can Ole Miss hang with Florida or LSU when it comes to NIL? It seems like they can, given over the last couple of years. Are they willing to do all of that at once is a big-time question. And we'll see how all of that unfolds. It's just a very weird situation, especially going into a game that I would pick Ole Miss to win today, and we'll pick that game later in the week. I'm probably going to pick Ole Miss. But if they fall to Mississippi State on Friday, and then Lane Kiffin announces he's going to LSU on Saturday, I don't think Ole Miss is making the playoff. And I don't necessarily think it would be fair to kick them out of the playoff, but we've seen it before. We've seen them hurt a team because a very important part of that football team was not a part of it anymore with Florida State a couple of years ago. I wouldn't be shocked. Now, I think you're going to beat Mississippi State, so I don't think it's going to be a huge problem. But then you beat Mississippi State. If he comes out the next day and says he's going to LSU, who's your coach for the playoff? Is it him? I'd be shocked. I definitely wouldn't let him if I was Keith Carter. But at the end of the day, who knows? It just really sucks for Ole Miss fans. That's one thing that I can say very confidently. I don't know what he does. I really don't. I think all three teams are still pretty firmly in it. I do think if Ole Miss falls on Friday, I think their CFP hopes lie on this decision. As crazy as that sounds, I really do think that's a reality that Ole Miss fans are going to have to come a little bit accustomed to. Now, you don't want to become accustomed to Mississippi State beating you, so at the end of the day, let's just assume you win. You're in the playoff regardless. I don't know where your coach is going, and I'm not sure he does either, which is a crazy thing to say this deep in a season and this close to the Egg Bowl, but that's where we are. We'll see if something happens on that Saturday. We'll see if something happens before that. We'll see if this thing drags out one way or another. I'm still going to bet that Lane Kiffin is somewhere other than Ole Miss. Right now, I'd bet on LSU. It is very much up in the air, and I think it changes by the day. So we'll see what happens. I could very well see him saying, I'm going to stick around. I could also see him saying, I'm going to leave, and then they have Pete Golding as their head coach going into the playoff games. Just a very, very weird situation over there in Oxford, but it sounds like we're getting a conclusion towards the end of this week, one way or another. It sounds like Auburn has zeroed in on their guy, and it's John Summerall at Tulane. I don't think this was much of a mystery for a lot of people. He was the head coach at Troy, spent a lot of his time growing up in the Huntsville, Madison area of Alabama. Very, very talented coach, a guy that would be at the top of my list, that's for sure, along with Matt Campbell and a couple other guys. But at the end of the day, he's been the runaway favorite for a long time. The question is just when can this be handled more than if. I really do think he will be the next head coach at Auburn. The question is Tulane playing in a playoff this upcoming month? Is he a guy that is going to be coaching going forward in that playoff? I have to assume he will stick with that team if they go to the playoff. I think it's a different situation than what's going on over there at Ole Miss. But at the end of the day, I think this is going to be the next Auburn head coach. I think John Summerall will take that job. If he doesn't, I think they have a couple other options set up. It's hard to know how great those are comparatively to John Summerall, but at the end of the day, I really do think it's going to be him. It's just a timing thing, depending on are they going to the playoff, are they not, when can he sign a contract, all that stuff that is a little bit over my head. I won't lie with you, but at the end of the day, I do think John Summerall is going to be the next head guy at Auburn. I think it's just a matter of when. And we got a firing. We got a new coaching position on the carousel now. There's a little bit of a mouthful. Cal has fired Justin Wilcox from their program. Nick Rolovich takes over as the head guy over there at Cal, at least interim for the time being. A very weird finish to his time at Washington State. If you want to look up that, you're more than welcome to. A very weird finish. Brian Harson's right next to him. A very weird finish to his time at Auburn. So it'll be a weird thing to watch. At the end of the day, they only got one more game, and it'll be an interesting coaching search. There's no doubt about that. I tend to believe the odds-on favorite right this second is Tosh Lupoy, the defensive coordinator over there at Oregon. He's an alum of Cal, and a big thing here is Jaren Kiave Sagapulotele. He's a very talented quarterback. You want to keep him in-house. Tosh Lupoy has that connection. He came from Oregon in the portal about 2 weeks after being there, but he does have that connection with Tosh Lupoy. I have to imagine a lot of offensive assistants that do know JKS would come over with him if you were to take that job. I think that's the slam dunk one, especially if you want to keep that quarterback there. Other than that, you got Sean Lewis, would be a great hire from San Diego State. Ryan Grubb from Alabama, if he's ready to take that head coaching job. Maybe Jim Mora from UConn is another option. A couple other guys that will absolutely pop up in this conversation. For me, I'm calling Tosh Lupoy immediately. I think he's done an incredible job with that Oregon program, is a really, really top-level recruiter, and gives you a shot to keep that quarterback around, which is really what you need moving forward. If you're going to be successful at Cal, you need to keep JKS in the building. I think Tosh Lupoy would do that. So I tend to believe that's going to be your hire. How quickly that's made, again, playoff for Oregon, all of that stuff, that will play into this, and we'll see how all of that develops. But Justin Wilcox out. We'll see what Brian Harsin and Nick Rolovich have for this weekend. But at the end of the day, I do believe it'll be likely Tosh Lupoy. At the very least, that's what I would do if I was the making the decision over there at Cal. Obviously, I'm not. So we'll see what happens the rest of the way. We're just getting started. We got a couple that are going to get filled here pretty shortly. We'll see if LSU or Florida gets filled by Lane Kiffin. Tend to believe the other one will be filled pretty quickly after that, once Lane Kiffin has made that decision. And then you got all the other ones. Then you got Auburn, who I think is closing in on their guy in John Summerall. You got Florida still to close. Penn State, will they hire Terry Smith? Will they move on to someone else? If it is, I think it's going to be Bob Chesney. Then you got UCLA. Do they get Bob Chesney before Penn? There's a lot of stuff that's going to happen. I'll leave it at that for the time being. I will stop kind of do word vomiting there. But at the end of the day, a lot of things to happen the rest of the way. At the very least, we know Florida State will not be in this conversation for now. I tend to believe they will be this time next year, but that's something we can deal with when it does happen. But that'll do it for this edition of Just Another College Football Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Really does help me out. Please do like, subscribe, comment. It means the world to me. Want to build something kind of special here, so please do all those things and keep it rolling. We have a little bit of a different schedule here. Obviously, with Thanksgiving this Thursday, I'm going to be back here tomorrow. I'm going to be back here tomorrow to make a lot of picks. I'm going to be back on Wednesday to break down all of the conference championship realities, all the conference championship ways that can go, the CFP implications as we head into the final weekend. All of that stuff is coming over the next couple of days, but we'll be back tomorrow. We'll be back tomorrow to make a number of big-time picks for a loaded rivalry weekend. We have a crazy Friday. We have an awesome Saturday. And it's going to change a lot in the world of college football going forward, could create all-out chaos. And I have to believe some of that is going to come for us. We'll break it down tomorrow. We'll give a lot of picks tomorrow, a lot of different stuff. And then on Wednesday, we'll go through as much chaos as we possibly can before those games kick off on Friday. But thank you so much for tuning in. Please do like, subscribe, comment. It means the world to me, helps me out a ton. But thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you guys tomorrow to make some big-time picks for rivalry weekend.